Hi everybody, this is Jen Henriksen. I'm with Mission Adventuring Travel, and I wanted to do a quick video on some visual aesthetics with being a Zoom host. I have several different groups I'm involved with a lot of people coming online this fall, needing to start hosting some Zoom meetings when they're kind of limited on what they know about Zoom. And I'm certainly not an expert by any stretch, but I have spent probably about 20 years, the last 20 years doing online trainings in virtual classrooms. So I have a lot of experience with Zoom-like platforms and specifically Zoom for the last 10 years or so. So I wanted to just do a quick tutorial on some things just about aesthetics, visually how to present yourself when you are hosting a Zoom meeting. So a couple things that I want to point out to you is that first of all, colors matter. The color of your background matters, and the color of the clothes that you're wearing matters. Even your hair color and your skin tone matter, right? If you think about photography, light always matters. But when we talk about a camera facing you, it's not always just light. It's actually the light and how it reflects with the colors in the background that you have. There's a whole lot that goes into that. Just Google it on YouTube. You'll find out a whole lot of different views on it. But one of the things I want to recommend to you is that when you're going in to host a Zoom meeting, always go into that meeting 15, 20 minutes early, set up the waiting room. That's kind of a standard feature now as we're heading into August of 2020. It's a standard feature that Zoom is doing for security reasons, but a waiting room puts all of the attendees of your meeting in a holding pattern until you decide to admit them into the room. As a host, that's a great thing for you because it gives you a minute to turn on your camera, turn on your microphone, and get yourself settled before everybody starts coming into the room. So in that little stretch of time before we do the meeting, here's what we're going to be doing. First of all, I know there's lots of jokes on Facebook and Instagram and all that about wearing your pajama pants and all that sort of thing. I've been a contractor my whole entire adult life. I've worked from home, and I'm a big proponent of get up, get dressed, and go to work. Same thing you would if you were leaving the house. So just so you get that frame of mind as if you were going to that meeting in person, get up, get dressed, put your makeup on, put your earrings on, dress the part if you're going to be doing professional meetings. I think it's super important, and it doesn't dumb down the material that it is that you're going to be presenting. The other thing is that you want to make sure your camera setup, you've taken some time to pay attention. You've seen all the different scenarios. You've seen when someone is way, way far back and it's hard to see what they're doing, or their dog or their cat is on the table because there's lots and lots of space. As a Zoom host, one of the biggest tips I can give you is that you want to make sure that you're close enough to your camera that there is literally about an inch between the top of your head and the top of the camera view. That puts you in full frame. Think again, photography. It puts you in full frame, so you are the focus of what's going on. Now, I do a lot of trainings as a travel professional, so my framed out area is very specific that has to do with that travel, what you're seeing in the background. A lot of times if you're just shooting a host thing from home, you're going to be in the center of that frame. You don't need to stage all the things behind you and that sort of thing. Wouldn't hurt to put up a sheet or something to cover it if it's very busy in the background, because it's hard to pay attention when there's a lot of people walking by, sounds going on, that sort of thing. So as a Zoom host, it really is the best if you can get into a private area, put a little note on the door that says, I'm shooting, or I'm recording right now, and get in that private space to be able to get yourself set up for your meeting. Make sure you have all of the things open that you need open. If you're showing a PDF or a YouTube file that you need to share, it's always better to have all of those things open on your computer in advance of your meeting, because any downtime in the meeting, you lose your people, right? So it's always better to have it done in advance. If that means you need to log on 30 minutes early, go ahead and do it. You can always start recording once people get in there if you need to record it. When it comes to colors, a lot of times, a lot of people, if you're familiar with Zoom, you might love the virtual background thing. But if you've seen people use a virtual background that puts like a beach scene behind me, one of the things you know right away is depending on what color they're wearing, they could disappear into that background. And I'm just saying and cautioning you to pay attention to what color you're wearing. Solid colors work great. And just pay attention to the skin tone in relation to the light too. So it looks good on camera. That's all we're doing here. there's a little feature. If you click down on your camera button to the right of it, you'll see the settings. If you go into the camera settings on Zoom, they have a little feature that's called Touch Up My Appearance. And just between you and me, it's a wonderful feature, but I recommend it just because it softens it just a little bit. And when you're using any type of lighting, it's not quite so harsh. All right. Now, speaking of lighting, you might need to play a little bit with the different lights that are going on, depending on whether you're front lit or backlit. You've seen this. A lot of people have a big, bright window behind them, and they look extremely dark. The reason I don't look dark at the moment is because I have a large light facing me. So you want to make sure that the light is in front of you, so you are front lit and not backlit. That's what keeps you nice and bright on camera, okay? Couple of other things as far as aesthetics go. When you first come in, a lot of times we're not paying attention about our face. So if we're looking at something on the screen, we tend to not be smiling, our eyes are looking away. Remember that when you are hosting a Zoom meeting, you are the focus of the meeting. No pressure, but you are the focus. You're the face they're looking at. So picture as if we were standing up in front of a room together and I'm trying to command your attention. The best way for me to command that attention is to look at you, to smile, and to keep you engaged, keep the attention. One of the quickest ways to not do that is to have your camera up too high. Laptop people, this is a really, really big issue. This is what you'll see a lot of times with people with a laptop, because the laptop camera is attached to the top of that screen. So you'll see them, but you'll only see this much of them, and they'll be looking kind of like this at different things they're trying to see. And it's not very usual for someone to say, hey, can you bring your camera down? Because again, it's just a visual aesthetic thing. But when you log in, even if you're on a laptop, make sure that little 1-inch rule that I told you, then you're going to be able to see your full face on the camera. If that's difficult with your laptop, we got a great suggestion this morning in one of our meetings to put your laptop, a couple of books under your laptop. That will make your screen be a little bit higher. But if you're hosting, you always want to pay attention to where you are in the frame, okay? Couple of other things, please test your microphone and close anything that isn't related to the meeting. So keep those documents open if you need to, those sorts of things. But your email, things that you know you won't be using in the meeting, close those down. Check with other people on your Wi-Fi. Make sure that they aren't streaming Netflix movies at the same time that you're trying to do your video presentation, because bandwidth will play a part in how fast or slow the Zoom presentation can go, okay? So just great tips on making sure that everything else is taken care of. The dog is watered outside the room. This morning I was doing one and my dog came in from outside. I didn't have my door closed, so the dog came in panting and walking around. If I didn't have a big noise canceling thingy on my microphone, that all they would have heard was my dog panting and walking around. So it's not a bad thing, right? Our whole world is going to Zoom meetings right now. So it's not a bad thing that they hear a child in the background or they hear an animal in the background, but you definitely don't want the cat walking across your screen in the middle of a meeting. You don't want constant interruptions. It's okay if you're a participant, it's not if you're a host, because the host is the one that wants to hold the attention. Okay, so I hope you find those helpful. There's not a lot to it. You know, Zoom makes it really, really easy for people to be a participant, and they make it easy for you to be a host. But a lot of times we have a lot of experience being a participant and not a lot being a host. So one last tip I want to give you is remember that your camera is usually separate from where your screen is that you're looking at people. So if I was looking at my screen and not at my camera, this is what you would see, because I'm looking at your faces right now, not at the camera. So one of the ways you can combat that as a host is if you go to the outside edges of the Zoom screen and roll your mouse just over the edge of the screen, you're gonna see that little tiny arrow show up. Click and hold it and drag that Zoom window directly underneath where your camera is. Shrink up that Zoom window so it's right up by where your camera is. Now you're going to see the pictures of everybody just below where your camera is. So there isn't such a great big difference between you looking at them and looking at your camera. Just a little quick tip to help make that work out. Remember that you can stop and start recordings anytime you're doing it, but when you do that, there'll be separate files. So it's good to just get your bearings first, then hit the record button. Know that it does not need to be perfect. There's going to be times that your phone is going to ring in the middle of it or something like that. It's just the times that we live in right now. But the more you can do to reduce those distractions when you're in the meeting, the better. Okay. So I hope you find that helpful. Good luck in your Zoom meetings, and thanks for watching.